Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, I wanted to talk specifically about all of the unconfirmed leaks, or more specifically, what's coming in the next pack for Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Now, this is all taken from Decade for Master Duel meta. He has very reliable sources. He's mostly been right. I don't think he's really been incorrect. Yeah, they've been correct thus far. So I do trust this, that we are getting these things for the upcoming pack. So I'm just going to kind of compile it all together. Obviously, he has videos on it himself, but I'm just kind of compiling what we have together and just going over the cards that you need to know about. So starting off with the first leaks, that being Ice Jade, Grimmer, Agerine. This card is absolutely fantastic. It takes a water tuner and a non-tuner monster. First of all, this is great in Ice Jade, but second of all, it is a 10, which means that it is summonable in Sword Soul. Now, what does it do? It's very good. You can activate this effect. Face-up monsters you control cannot be destroyed or banished by your opponent's card effects of this turn. Now, notably, this doesn't interact with evenly matched. It just doesn't. Sadly. But it's still very good. Hey, against Naturia, this is fantastic. You activate the effect. Oh, great. Now all of your monsters are protected from, like, the one interaction that deck has. So there you go. Then if you activated this effect in response to an opponent's card or effect that is activated, and your opponent has a card with a name on their field or in their graveyard, you can banish those cards. Basically meaning if they have two of the same monsters, or no. It basically means if you activate something, or if they activate something that would banish, you can then banish from either grave or field the card. So it's also a disruption, which is pretty cool. It's protection, it's disruption. But on top of that, if a card is banished by your opponent's card effect while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card. Again, very good against Naturia, which is expected to come later, but also just a decently good card. You know, if your opponent banishes, this would trigger, I believe, on evenly matched if a card is banished by your opponent's card effect. Yeah, there we go. Or, you know, a floodgate, like, for example, Dimensional Fissure or Dimensional Shifter while this card is in your graveyard. There you go. Moving on, we also have Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon. This card is very advantageous because it's an 8 that is generic that then allows you to go into a 10. If it's Synchro Summoned, you special summon a level 2 or lower tuner from your graveyard. That's basically it. It's just free Baron if you can get to an 8, which oftentimes is with a 2 and a 6. So, like, for example, with Gamma, you're able to now go into this and then to make a Baron if your opponent tries to Ash you. Or Maxi you, or something along those lines. You can go Gamma and then just proceed from there, which is pretty cool. So, yeah, very, very good card overall. Not insane, but we'll definitely see play. Especially with with just some of the new cards that are coming out. Eventually, Bestials will make this even better as well, being additional 6s. So there's that. Moving on, we have the Fright Fur stuff. Now, not Fright Fur, Fur Hire stuff. If you don't know what the Fur Hire cards do, that's totally fine. They are getting some new cards that make them very different, so it's not as advantageous or as good to know the stuff. But we do specifically want to go over the new cards, most notably Donner. Donner is basically just the new Diamond Direwolf. If you don't know what Diamond Direwolf does, it just pops itself as well as another card, and it's a rank 4. This card is a link 2, which makes it much better. It just requires 2 monsters with different types, which means that you can go and deal with something like Ibly or what have you in order to make this card. So yeah, it's another way to deal with problematic cards like that. And then it just pops a card, target a Fur Hire, and a monster your opponent controls, destroy them. However, for Fur Hires, it does have the ability to tribute a monster, special summon a Fur Hire from your hand, or graveyard with a different original name that is tributed monster. Then, if you tributed a link monster to activate this, you can special summon one more such monster. So you tribute Donner in order to special summon it to other Fur Hires from hand or grave, allowing you access to more of your Fur Hire engine. On top of that, we have Rex, which is notably a dinosaur, which can be searched out with Fossil Dig. Keep that in mind. It's also a 2, which means sprites. That's right, 2 2s in Donner and Fur Hire, or Donner and Rex, means that Sprite can also be played with this. So that's why it's pretty decent. If this card is normally special, you just add a Fur Hire spell trap from your deck to your hand. During the main phase, you can if you control a Fur Hire, you can banish this from your graveyard, then target a Fur Hire card in your graveyard, and either add it to the hand or special summon it if it was a monster. So it basically allows you to get an additional monster onto your field or an additional card into your hand, which is very nice. They are hard once per turns on both of those effects, though. But all in all, still very good, including the fact that you can special summon Rex off of this effect, allowing you to then get another Surge. So there's that. Very cool, very good card, and makes the deck more splashable, as well as I believe there would be some newer cards added as well, but these are the two cards that are more or less confirmed. They're unconfirmed, but they're confirmed. So there's that. Very good. Very excited to see these. They're also splashable with Runic, which is very nice because of the draw engine that is available due to some of the other Fur Hire cards. So there's that. Actually, I don't think the new Fur Hire cards are... Or the other Fur Hire cards are new. I think it's just these two. Anyway. Moving on. A whole bunch of other cards are also being introduced. Most of these aren't all that great. Most notable are the new Sword Soul card, which kind of does stuff. It's a level 8 fire. Must be special summoned by a worm monster effects. Again, not the greatest. But if a monster is banished by card effect, you can special summon this card from your graveyard. Hey, that's a worm effect. Or hand by... but banish it when it leaves the field. If this card is special summoned, you can target a card in the field spell zone, and a monster your opponent controls or in their graveyard, banish them. Again, just not all that advantageous. It's a 3,000 body, which is kind of nice, because reasons? I don't know. It triggers changing. Again, not really worth it in any regard. We have Soulbound, a card that was overly hyped in, like, every circle. A lot of people were overhyping this card when it came to the TCG, and then it just didn't do anything at all. And it still hasn't. But it reads really well. It seems like it would be a really cool side deck card. All monsters your opponent currently controls, cannot be tributed, used as material for fusion, synchro, or Xyz, or link material until the end of this turn. That, again, sounds very good. The problem with it is that it's not activatable from hand. This would be great if it was a hand trap, but it's not, which means that you'd have to set the card first to do anything with it. Or maybe, I guess, you could activate it against, like, Tier, and it would slow down Tier on your turn, because then the cards on field wouldn't be able to be used. But again, they could just use the cards in the graveyard, so that's not really all that different. Again, there isn't really like a good way for this to really work. Sure, being able to set it and then activate it to potentially stop like Flunder from using the cards currently on the field in order to be tributed. I guess, hey, that's pretty decent, you know, it stops them for a turn. But again, in specifically Master Duel, this is not going to do anything. In a best of one where you don't know what your opponent is playing, in no world is this going to be advantageous. However, it's probably going to be a UR. Moving on, the last card I want to talk about is Zealantis. This card is very good, specifically in Marincess. The ability to just be, you know, used one link material for a link 4 is very nice. It means that you can go from your big Marincess monster into this guy, and then what it does is you can only control one of it. You can use each of the following effects once per turn during your main phase. You can banish all monsters on the field, and then special summon as many of those monsters as possible that were banished by this effect to their owner's field face up or in face down defense position. During the battle phase, you can destroy monsters on the field up to the number of co-linked monsters on the field. Notably, the only effect that Marincess cares about is the main phase effect. The battle phase effect is fine if you can co-link it, but Zealantis specifically requires you to special summon those monsters. So if you are locked into only being able to special summon water monsters, like for example with the Marincess cards that do lock you into only utilizing water monsters, you could just banish your opponent's field. It's pretty good, and it deals with a lot of problematic cards for Marincess. And the fact that it is a monster that can just be summoned utilizing one other monster means that it is pretty easy to summon. So yeah, Marincess now has another way to deal with big problematic boss monsters. So there you go. That's basically it. Nothing else really of note from here. Moving on. We have Goatee. If you don't know this archetype, it is an archetype that centers around utilizing banished monsters in order to synchro summon. Yes, the fish, the space fish, learned how to fusion summon, or synchro summon what's the joke? Anyway, yeah, goatee is a very, very interesting archetype that kind of does things unconventionally. Most notably, we're going to talk about Goatee of the Deep Beyond. It requires a fish tuner and one or more non-tuners. The original attack of this card becomes 500 times the number of banished monsters. If this card is synchro summoned during your opponent's turn, you can banish all monsters on the field. Now, notably, that is how they normally would summon this guy. Also, during the standby phase of the next turn, after this card is banished from the monster zone, you can special summon this banished card. So, yeah, you just banish all of the cards on the opponent's turn and then bring it back on your turn in order to deal with the opponent's cards. I'm not going to get too in depth on each one of these cards, but just know that the overall general idea is you go from the 6 into the 8 into the 10 on the opponent's turn, banish all of your opponent's cards, and then proceed from there. Not the greatest, but it is a fun archetype that I will definitely be taking a look at when it comes to Master Duel. Moving on, we have Naturia. I hate these cards. I hate them to death, but alas, they are very good. Let's start off with Mole Cricket. During the main phase, you contribute this card, special summon a Naturia monster from the deck. Or you can special summon 2 if your opponent controls a monster with the highest attack on the field. This is insane. Just straight up. Look, the Naturia cards aren't the greatest, but still, being able to special summon 2 monsters for free is kind of crazy. And it's just during the main phase, at quick effect speed, meaning even if it's during your opponent's turn, you can still do this. Mole Cricket is absolutely insane. On top of that, if your opponent special summons a monster from the extra deck, or you special summon a Naturia monster from the extra deck while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon it. Yeah, he comes back. This card is insane. And he is the cornerstone to a strategy that utilizes not just him, but like Runic and Naturia and stuff like that to just kind of generate massive advantage in order to then, end on like Nat Beast and Baron and the Naturia cards generating, more advantage by drawing additional cards, etc., etc. Then we have Camellia. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can send a Naturia card from your deck to the graveyard. If you would tribute a monster to activate a Naturia monster's effect, you can send the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard. And if your opponent normal you mill 2 cards if you tribute a Naturia monster. That doesn't really matter too much. If your opponent normal or special summons a monster, you can special summon a Naturia monster from your graveyard. Again, just allowing you to loop additional cards. It allows you to send the trap card, which I will bring up in a second, as well as some of the other cards. So yeah, just a truly great card. It also is a tuner, which means that you have easy access into specifically Nat Beast, because guess what? It brings back Mole Cricket. Mole Cricket can also special summon the Camilla, which means that yeah, it's just very easy access to Nat Beast, which is a horrible card. So there you go. Moving on, we have Naturia Blessing, which just has a few effects. You can activate one of them. Special summon a Naturia monster from hand to graveyard. Really cool. Also, immediately after this effect resolves, synchro summon a synchro monster using monsters you control as a material, including a fusion monster, including a Naturia monster, or you could fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters you control, including a Naturia monster. Most of the time, it's just a special summon from the hand or grave, which honestly is pretty good. But the second thing is that you can also just use it to synchro summon into something like that beast. You set this, and then on the opponent's turn, you go Mole Cricket, bring back a monster, special summon a monster, and then you can go into like Nat Beast, you can go into Barkion, you can go into what have you, right? I mean, at this point, you probably get it, right? I'm going to pull up some more of the Naturia cards to show you why this is really good. Alright, the first one here is the Naturia Sacred Tree, which if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add a Naturia card from your deck to your hand. You can only use one of the following effects once per turn. Notably, that first effect of adding a Naturia card, not a once per turn. Do keep that in mind. The on-field effect doesn't matter. It's just that first effect. You could just pitch it for a myriad of things. Like, for example, I don't know, Hugin. There you go. Or you could send it to the graveyard with one of the other effects that we've already talked about in order to just search a card. And you can even do this during the opponent's turn. Very cool. On top of that, the other card that I want to note is Sunflower. When your opponent's monster effect is activated, you contribute an Naturia monster and this card to negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Now, notably, there was a thing that Camilla said where if you attribute a monster to activate a Naturia monster's effect, you can send the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard instead. Meaning, you can kind of bypass that little tribute effect by just sending the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard with the Sunflower instead. So there's that. That basically means that Sunflower is 2 negates with the Camilla, as well as, generating additional advantage with Mole Cricket, ending on Naturia Beast or Barkion or what have you, right? And then the runic stuff on top of that. I do expect that this is one of the decks to look out for coming soon. I hate this. I don't want it. Leave me alone. Moving on. We have the last thing that I want to talk about, that being Plunder Patrol. Now, I don't know if that is the end of the leaks that are coming. I'll try to keep you posted with any new stuff, but you can also find it on Master Duel Meta as well. You can find it yourself. But this is so much that I would be surprised if we actually got all that much more. The last thing I want to talk about is Plunder Patrol. Plunder Patrol is getting Jord, the Earth ship, and a pendulum. Plunder Patrol has had a lack of 2 attributed ships, that being Earth and Wind. Now, notably, we still don't have Wind even in the TCG, but finally, we are getting the Earth ship in Master Duel. Now, this ship is actually really powerful. Let's talk about the monster effect first. Oh, also, it is an Earth that is level 8, which means it's pretty easy to summon, and it's a synchro, which is also very nice. But the monster effect is if your opponent special summons a monster, you can add a Plunder Patrol card from your deck to your hand. That's it. You just add a Plunder Patrol card from your deck to your hand. Very nice, very easy to utilize. Then, if this card is equipped with a Plunder Patrol card, you can special summon a Plunder Patrol monster from your deck. Fantastic. This means that you can tag out even more efficiently. It's just an additional way to tag out into additional monsters. Really good. On top of that, you can target a Plunder Patrol card in your graveyard, add it to your hand, and if you do, place this card into your Pendulum Zone. Now, this is where it becomes very good. The Pendulum effect is, you can declare an attribute, return this card to the extra deck, and if you do, special summon a Plunder Patrol token, a Fiend level 4, attack 0, defense 0, with that attribute to both players' fields in defense. This is insane. What this means is that you can basically get access to any attribute that you may need, meaning we don't even need the Wind ship. While it would be nice, we basically have the ability to go into any of our ships that we so need because of this one pendulum effect. You synchro summon this, then you can add a Plunder Patrol card from your graveyard to your hand, putting this card into the Pendulum Zone, and then allowing you to give yourself or your opponent a token. This turns off Kashtira cards, this turns off Evenly Matched, this turns off a whole bunch of things that would require your opponent or your field to be empty of monsters. Even things like Gamma it would turn off, although I wouldn't necessarily think that they would have not Gammaed already, but alas. So, again, hugely advantageous for Plunder and is a very, very good card. It's not going to bring Plunder out of, Rogue or anything like that, but it is a very good card, and I am very excited for it. Again, another deck I will definitely be testing. Anyway, that's going to be it for this episode. Again, if you want to check out more of the leaks that may come out, I don't expect there to be much more other than maybe like specific cards that are coming out, but nothing big like new archetypes. Again, you can just check them out on masterduelmeta.com or check out Dkayed and his videos, spelled Dkayed. Again, I wouldn't actually suggest going over to his channel because reasons. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and if you did indeed enjoy it, a like is very much appreciated, and if you want to check out more content like this, as well as more Yu-Gi-Oh!, then just be sure to subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye. Shout out to the Frost Guard, my members. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I hope you enjoy the content.